Welcome to part 2 of Computer Hardware for CAD, the guide to successfully completing your City and Guilds Level 3 CAD test. This is part 2, and in part 2 we're going to look primarily at input devices. So any device that will enable you to input some form of control or command into the software. Okay, so in this session you will identify a range of computer input devices, and we will look at you will be able to describe the function of different input devices. Now, as in all of these sessions, right at the very end of this session there will be a few questions for you to answer, and those questions will help you build your knowledge to successfully complete the test that you will have coming up shortly. First off, what is an input device? I've just found this little table online which gives you pretty much all the different types of input devices that you can have for a computer system. Not all of these we will use with a CAD system for different reasons. So some of the main ones that you'll know of: keyboard, numeric keypad, pointing device, all really important for CAD. A remote control can also be used. Joysticks, although not really used for CAD. Touchscreens are becoming more and more used in everyday life. Again, they have some issues with CAD. Just imagine continually touching your screen every time you wanted to do something in CAD, and trying to do that for a whole day if you're a designer. It's not really ideal, but you know, we'll look at a couple of these anyway. A scanner can input information in, and again in CAD, in SolidWorks, I've done this a few times, where you can physically draw something on a piece of paper, scan it in to create a digital copy, and then use that copy in SolidWorks to trace around what you've sketched, and that can help you create some nice geometry. We also have graphics tablets, which are primarily used by artists, so it's an easy way to create digital art if you've got something that resembles a pen in your hand. A microphone can also be used as an input device, not really for CAD again. Digital camera, similar. Webcam, that I'm using now. And a light pen. So a light pen is basically a stylus that will touch and interact with the screen as you go through your workflow. So we're just going to pick up on a couple of these, not all of them, just a few of the important ones, and then, as I said, there'll be a couple of questions at the end for you to answer. So the first one that we're going to look at is a computer keyboard. So we're all well aware of what a keyboard is. It contains a bunch of buttons, which are number inputs, letter inputs, plus a couple of other bits and pieces. The keyboard is used quite a lot in CAD systems, not only to input dimensions into things, but for instance in SolidWorks, the use of the control button enables additional functionality for the mouse. You can use the arrow keys to navigate around the system. You can set up shortcuts for different functions and different buttons in SolidWorks to save you having to use your mouse to navigate through submenus. You can also create different scenes and show different bits of information on the screen very quickly and easily with the keyboard. So a keyboard's a very important one for a CAD system. We're going to look at, quite obviously, is the computer mouse. Now a mouse usually has 3 buttons, and anyone that's done any work in SolidWorks or in a CAD system knows that you'll primarily use a mouse to do virtually everything in the software. If you're using something like SolidWorks, then the scroll wheel becomes very important, as that can help you navigate and move around the space and rotate your models and zoom in and zoom out. So even with 3 buttons, a computer mouse can do quite a lot of things, and is a very, very important piece of hardware. However, I've just mentioned that a standard mouse, generally has 3 buttons. You can buy specific mouse designed for designed for CAD systems, including SolidWorks. Similar to the one that's on the screen now, is a very, very popular one amongst designers that are using the software all the time. You can see that rather than a traditional mouse that you move around the screen, the mouse is replaced by a scroll wheel in the middle. Now the scroll wheel primarily rotates left and right, but it can also be used like a little mini joystick. You can also press it for a button. Another big benefit is if you look around the outside of that mouse, you can see lots of other buttons that can be programmed to do specific things in the CAD software. And again, this has been designed just to help the workflow and the ergonomics of a user who's using a CAD system quite substantially. Now, the downside to these mice is that they are rather expensive, and if you have a quick Google, you'll be able to see some of the range that we have. This is one of the more popular ones. It's called a Space Mouse, and they are really good, but as I said, quite expensive to use. So something that's becoming more popular nowadays is the use of a stylus, or if you go back a few years, it would have been called a light pen. So this will enable you to draw directly on a screen. So for this, you need to have a touchscreen device, such as a tablet, and you need the stylus or the light pen. It's good because it enables you to draw directly on the screen itself. So people with more of an artistic drawing nature and temperament, you can actually use all those skills that you've picked up previously to create shapes and to create geometry in a CAD software. However, they do often have limited functionality. So you have the pen in your hand, and you don't have all those different movements, so you don't have all the different buttons that you would get on a standard mouse, let alone one of the CAD mouse. So there are limited things you can do with it. Now, I've used one of these previously, and I didn't get on with it, and the biggest reason was that when you're using that mouse, you have to use the full width of the screen, moving your hand full width of the screen to be able to click the different buttons in different locations. What you may not realize you're doing with a mouse as you're moving a mouse around is that you will often move and stop and move back in little motions, and you can get the mouse pointer to move a long way with only a small amount of movement off your mouse. With a stylus or a light pen, you have to physically move into every corner of the screen. So for me, I had a lot of fatigue when I was using one of these, because after half an hour my arm was aching just from the angle that I was trying to draw on and the fact that I was physically moving my hands so much. So if you don't have a touchscreen device, you can get something called a Digitizing Tablet, which basically does the same thing as the stylus and touchscreen, only you have a specific device as the touchscreen. And what it will do is it will send coordinates from the mouse and the tablet up onto the screen and move the cursor. And in this case, the cursor is often replaced with something called a puck, and it's usually a crosshair pointer so that you can precisely place that puck where you want it. And again, all the same issues that I had with the touchscreen, I've also had with a digitizing tablet. You have to physically move your hand all the way around that screen to be able to go up into the corners. So the movement of your hand is directly related to the movement of the cursor on the screen. And for me, again, it just caused fatigue, and it wasn't something that I was used to doing. However, a benefit of them is that you can create this complex geometry that would be really hard with a mouse, where you're not having that direct motor skill as the input device. There we go, quick and easy on this video. I've got you just 4 questions here again. So again, this is going to build up into your knowledge that you need to successfully complete this CAD test. So describe how a keyboard is used as an input device for a CAD. Again, 40 words. I'm just looking for 2 or 3 sentences. Describe how a mouse, describe how a light pen, describe how a digitizing tablet and a puck is used. And that's it. Nice, quick and easy for this one. We're not focused on all the other bits that aren't necessarily that important. We're just looking for some key basics. Good luck.